Hey, what's up, everybody? Superman Anthony Walker for SureDog.com and MMA On Point. This is my inaugural post-fight reaction. So we just witnessed UFC 234. Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya boosted up to the main event at the very, very last minute. So before we start talking about what we didn't see, let's just talk about what we did see. And what we did see was pretty incredible, to say the least. I quite frankly, like, I don't mind eating crow if that's what we get to see, because I was one of the many people that thought that this was going to be a one-sided execution. I really thought that Anderson Silva was going to go out there and get embarrassed and just beaten, and it was just a very, very sad situation I thought we will witness. However, it's not the case. It's not the case. Israel Adesanya, while he did perform very well, Anderson Silva, man, you can't take anything away from what he did. You can't take anything away from what he did. Anderson Silva was able to hang in there with a guy who is one of the elite strikers that we've seen in MMA, and one of the better prospects that we've seen in MMA for a long time. I mean, that's just nuts that it happened that way. So I'm quite frankly very, very pleased at what I just saw. Man, I don't even know what to say about it. It looks like, so I had a separate computer up to show the stream, and that way I can read questions off of it if any of them came up. But I'm going to have to pull it up on my phone, so bear with me for just a second while I get that in order, because my backup laptop is certified trash. Okay, certified trash on that one. Yeah, man, but I'm just so shocked right now that we saw Anderson Silva in such a good version of himself. Like, this is depleted Anderson. This is depleted Anderson. This is Anderson Silva who is not at the who's not at the absolute best that he can be, but but he looked pretty damn good to me. He looked pretty damn good to me. He looked great, man. He was sharp, man. His counters look good, but you definitely can tell that, like, yes, he's not what he once was. Those things that he relied on, the reflexes, the reaction time, some of the athletic things. And granted, he wasn't the most athletic guy to make it to the UFC, but he was always a guy who used that bit of athleticism that he had and maximized it. And then you couple that with insane reflexes, and you get a guy who just does amazing things. And, you know, we talk about Vasyl Lomachenko being the guy who brings you through the matrix. Anderson Silva was before that. Granted, it's a different sport, but Anderson Silva is the first fighter I remember hearing the matrix centered around. So let that be the benchmark. I mean, this is depleted Anderson, but depleted Anderson still goes to a decision with a guy who's about 15 years younger, who has a much more reputable striking resume. You know, and it's not like Anderson Silva is like this offensive wrestling dynamo. He's not that. So you don't have that one equalizer in MMA to take a striker out of his game, where you can take him down and he thinks twice, and he's slower with his strikes, and he's less sure of himself. You don't have that with this. What you have is you have a striker and a striker. And damn, man, if Anderson Silva still don't have it, like, so what I'm thinking about right now, suppressing my inner fanboy like crazy. Just a few weeks ago at Anderson Silva's private gym in West Hollywood, I was there for his media workout and promotion of this event. And, you know, he's in there, and of course, a media workout, you know, it's not going to be the real deal. It's not what these guys do in camp. They're not in there hard sparring. They're not in there really drilling technique and doing like this savage strength conditioning. It wasn't that. But we did see Anderson hitting the pads. We did see him moving around a bit. And like my first impression was like, man, he's still fluid. He still has that. He still has that, you know, and I hate to use the word swag, but Anderson Silva's got it. Anderson Silva's got swag, man. He's got that in abundance, and it still shows, you know, and he still had pop in his hands. His kicks were thundering through the gym. But, you know, you look at a pad session, you think like, okay, it's pads. Well, he showed he's still got it. Like, you put that Anderson Silva against the majority of the middleweight division today, Anderson Silva's coming out on top, man. And at would it be 43 years old in April? Oh, that's crazy, man. That's crazy talk. Like, that right there is pure insanity. Yes, I'm drinking whiskey. That's what I do. Yes, that's pure insanity that a guy at 43 years old is still in there with a dude who just turned 30, was about to turn 30. So you talking about what, a 12, 13 year difference in age, and he's in there hanging with him, man. You know, I'll be the first to say I was out here thinking it was dead man walking when Anderson Silva was walking out to that cage. And I'm normally the guy who always tweets about the walkout music, always tweets about the walkouts themselves, because I just have a lot of fun with that. But this was one time where I ain't gonna lie, man, I was kind of scared. Like, I was genuinely afraid of what was going to happen. I was telling my wife earlier today, and telling anybody willing to listen, if you listen to the Trenches live chat that I do on SureDog with the homie Jason Burgos, like I'm thinking this is going to be a one-sided killing. I thought we were sending an old legend out to pasture, and I know that is kind of a function of mixed martial arts or combat sports in general. So I accept it as that. But yeah, man, I think I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. And then, but beyond that, the fight itself was fantastic. The fight itself was fantastic. Like, if you could ever imagine, this is kind of, maybe this is the better way to say it. When the original UFC tournaments were created, and you had karate versus sumo and boxing versus jiu-jitsu, and you had all these style versus style matchups, and, you know, some of the guys, you know, like myself, who were big kung fu movie fans, and, you know, I trained a little kung fu. I actually believed in it for a little bit in time. You know, I would say, like, man, we haven't seen like kung fu, like Donnie Yen kung fu in the UFC, man. That would be fantastic. That was the closest we're gonna get. That is the closest we're ever gonna get. That was a kung fu battle, man. That was Michael Jai White versus Jim Kelly. You know, that was dope, man. Blown away, man. I'm really blown away. And shout out to the homie Jay, who is the producer behind the scenes of the Trenches on SureDog. He hit me up and said, hey, said if I'm interested in taking a question from the SureDog forum, yes, I am. So here we go. Someone on the forum named Prototype asks, do you think this one counts as a moral victory for Silva? You know what? Yeah, I do. I really do, because we were signing his death warrant. And I'm sure there are people out there who are not, who weren't riding that train so hard, and more power to you. If you were one of the people that was out there tweeting or just saying to their friends or whatever that Anderson Silva is still top shelf mixed martial artist against other top shelf mixed martial artists, and this was going to be a competitive fight, hey, more power to you, man. My fight picks were ass crack for this event. So what do I know? What do I know? I'm just wearing a Captain America hoodie, man. I'm trash. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sitting here drinking whiskey. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I would say that Anderson Silva definitely got a moral victory here tonight, because, man, we were certainly writing him off. We were certainly writing him off. But at the end of the day, man, it happened. And now, granted, it wasn't like this action-packed affair, but the suspense, man, the intrigue, the drama centered not around, bullshit between the fighters about their camps feuding, or they were talking trash on Twitter. This was drama centered around what both of these gentlemen are capable of. And when you see flashes of it, man, I think that's exciting, man. I absolutely love a fight like that. And when Dominic Cruz on the commentary said something about this being a chess match, when we talk about mixed martial arts or combat sports in general being like human chess, this is what they had in mind. This is what they had in mind, where both of these guys are so capable of sudden bursts of violence, and they have to solve one another before those bursts even really mean anything. I think that's amazing. So yeah, got a comment on the chat here from Joseph Emmons. Says, boring fight. Sir, I disagree. Appreciate you watching, my brother. I strongly disagree. That fight was exciting, but hey, to each his own. Like, if you came for that one-sided execution, if you came for the blood and the gore, hey, it may not be for you. But I think for a lot of people, judging by my timeline, a lot of people were pleased by the action itself, even if it wasn't a brawl like we saw with Ishihara and Kong earlier tonight. It wasn't quite that, but hey, it was exciting, man. It was exciting. So looks like we got another question right here. Let me go ahead and scroll down because I'm so trash. I thought I had this together, but of course, the damn other computer does the dumb thing right before is worthwhile. All right, so question from Yojimbo, what's up, player? He says, what do you make of Gastelum's apparent heel turn? All right, so I wanted to save this for later, but why not? Let's get into the shits right now. Kelvin Gastelum's heel turn, I mean, I guess it works in the UFC as we know it today. It works. He's got to keep himself relevant. Like, I get it. I really get it. He has to keep himself relevant because we just saw a really good fight between two stars, and the crowd was fully behind it. Social media is fully behind it. I'm sure there were bars packed around the country, if not the world, that were like, wow, this is a great fight. And it is so easy to forget that the UFC will forget them in a heartbeat. Okay, so how many guys have had those title shots promised, had them scheduled, and never got them? Carl Parisian comes to mind, although his issues were more about him as a man, like his life struggles that kind of derailed him. But think of TJ Grant, granted his injury, but a title shot is never promised, man. It's never promised. Like, they could say that all they want. They could call it a #1 contender fight. You name and picture could be on a poster for a title fight, and you don't get it because you don't get it. Think of a few other guys, man. Who think Josh Thompson, man. Josh Thompson was supposed to fight Anthony Pettis. All beat Benson Henderson in a replacement, a late notice replacement fight, and lost his title shot. Because of a split decision, lost his title shot. Like, that shit can happen, man. Like, it's nothing. So for Kelvin Gastelum, he has to keep his name relevant. He's got to keep his name in the headlines. Like, we'll sit there and dog Colby Covington forever and a day for his annex, but his annex means something. He's not trying to be left out. Woodley and Usman are about to fight. He's left out in the cold. Gastelum is left out in the cold right now, while Israel Adesanya was supposed to put on a showcase in front of his own crowd. So when Whittaker comes back healthy, man, you think that the UFC ain't trying to put that fight together? I have a very, very difficult time going too hard against Gastelum's quote unquote heel turn, because that's what's It's almost what's got to be done. I mean, I will admit, man, it was cringeworthy as hell. I do think it's kind of ghoulish almost. If that's the right thing to say, it was kind of ghoulish maybe because he was, wearing this belt that clearly wasn't his. It was obviously Hudo's, or it was something that the UFC stole from one of their concession stands in the arena, one of the replicas. And he's like, I'm the champ. I'm the champ. You got to go through me. Of course, when the actual champion had a literal medical emergency that, according to everything we've read about it, could have killed him had he stepped into the cage tonight. And you out there talking about you the real champ now. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like it, but we're talking about him. We're talking about him. Yo, Jimbo, like we are discussing Kelvin Gastelum right now after we just saw what Israel Adesanya did. So I think that right there sums up what that heel turn is all about. All right, so I'm guessing yo Jimbo, you jumped from the Sherdog forum to the YouTube live chat. Appreciate that, my brother. All right, so it says I thought the Kelvin Gastelum thing added some flavor and intrigue to the 185 division. I don't disagree with that. It did. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum's presence, period, adds something to this division. I mean, keep in mind that Robert Whittaker was also a welterweight. So you have two guys who were welterweights now fighting for the middleweight title. Two guys that really could be big stars for their markets. I mean, according to everything I've heard. So shout out to fellow Sherdog.com writer Jacob Debbits, homie out there on the ground right now in Melbourne, I believe the fight was in. He's cage side of Melbourne, and he's hitting me up saying, like, man, the energy in here is crazy. And from everything he's saying about the pre-fight stuff, the energy is crazy. Like, Whittaker's a star over there. Even if he didn't fight tonight, his star power helped carry this fight to a sellout crowd, to a frenzied audience. All right, so you really need that. You really need a guy like Kelvin Gastelum too to kind of mix things up, shake the division up a bit. Look at the guys in the division that are left now. So I did actually mention this in my my last mailbag column and Ask Ant, and I think we went over this on the trenches as well, where people were. I think the poll question was, did Adesanya deserve a title shot with a win tonight? And beyond that, beyond the the poll and all that, I'll put it to you like this: where Adesanya doesn't necessarily deserve the title shot based on the merit of beating Anderson Silva, considering his 2 years of inactivity, preceded by being 1-4-1 in his last 6 fights. Beyond that, the circumstances call for it, because there's not really anyone else. Like, you put Jacare in that spot. Well, Whittaker smashed him within 2 rounds. I think it was early second round. He put him away. Romero can make the weight, even though that third fight sounds interesting to me. But hey, let's not see Robert Whittaker fight Yoel Romero again, because that's all we've seen for the past couple of years. Chris Weidman was last seen getting knocked out by Jacare. Luke Rockhold's leaving the division, last getting seen knocked out by Romero. So they're Paulo Costa's not proven, doesn't belong in with Whittaker just yet. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced about Paulo Costa in general anyway. That's another story. But yeah, man, you need a Gastelum. You need a guy with some of these quality wins who may not look the part necessarily, but hey, he's a dangerous fighter, man. He put out Bisping, who was the champion just a few blinks of the eye ago. He knocked Vitor Belfort in the next year, despite what the weed in his blood test post-fight said. So I think we really can I'm going to be thankful Gastelum is at middleweight. But like I said to Yo Jimbo, man, he's got to keep his name relevant. And this is what he did. He kept his name relevant. Let's see what else we got. All right, from Mr. Jax. I'm gonna guess, Mr. Jax. I'm guessing you have a Mortal Kombat based name. If so, salute. Jax is dope on that game. But anyway, says Silva looked terrifying. I loved every second of it. So many mind games. Yes, 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 all the way. I loved every bit of that. Anderson Silva looked fantastic. He looked fantastic. You know, for a 43-year-old man. Like, that wasn't Anderson Silva smoking Forrest Griffin when he was a few blinks of the eye away from his light heavyweight belt. It wasn't that, but he greatly outperformed the odds makers. He greatly outperformed myself and many of the so-called experts, pundits, journalists, media members, whatever you want to call us. Yeah, so I ain't mad at that at all, man. I'm not mad at that one bit. I loved what I saw. All right, so got a question here from Purple Storm. What was your fight of the night and performances of the night? All right, fight of the night. I gotta go with Silva and Adesanya. And you know, and maybe swayed by the storyline and just knowing about the fighters and what the expectation was. Maybe I'm swayed by that. And hey, if I'm guilty of that, I'll smile at the judge for that one. I'll wear that all day, man. That is my fight of the night. As far as individual performances of the night, I'm really tempted to throw Lando Venata in that mix. Montana De La Rosa was just pure domination. See what other names are. Jalen Turner, man. Jalen Turner did the damn thing. Oh man, if I had to pick two guys for the performance, I'll go Jalen Turner and and Montana De La Rosa. Those are incredibly dominant performances that I think warrant a little love. And if I'm in charge of throwing some of the undercard guys some extra money, they're gonna get a little extra money. You know, they definitely showed out. They did what they were supposed to do. So hats off to them. Now, as far as fight of the night, yeah, I'm not looking into the stories and not looking into my expectations about it all. You know what? Ronnie Yaya and Ricky Simon or Simone. I thought it was Simon, but they kept saying Simone. So I can't trust Dominic Cruz to pronounce names right. I can't trust myself to pronounce names right. So we're gonna call him Ricky Simon. Ricky Simon, Hani Yaya, although apparently he wants to be called Ronnie. I don't know. Those two guys, yeah, I wouldn't mind giving them a little recognition for what it was worth. It was short, but it was definitely a crazy fight to watch. Was the Ishihara and Kong fight. So yeah, those are the two outside of Silva Adesanya that I'm probably will show some love to as far as post-fight bonuses go. But as we discussed on the trenches last week, man, the bonus structure sucks, and fighters should just be paid more. You know, we shouldn't have to like have these guys rely on the bonus money to get paid what they should or get paid more. We shouldn't have to rely on that. That should just be extra. That should be literally a bonus. You know, see what I did there? All right. So until we get another question, we're going to go ahead and continue chatting about what we just witnessed. So I'm sure more, you know, actually before I move on from Adesanya and Silva. Oh yeah. Randall Connor says, enjoyed that fight. Felt like a Kung Fu movie. Yes, exactly. That was exactly what it was. Yes, please. May I have another? I loved it. Well, now one thing, and once again, this is my personal opinions and feelings and biases being wrapped up into this. When that fight was announced, I was sitting cage side at Liddell Ortiz 3. Okay, and we all know what a miserable display that was. So sitting, you know, cage side for this. For case out for that, and then getting that tweet that this fight is official. Anderson Silva is going to take on Israel Adesanya and it is official for the co-main now, of course, the main event of UFC 234. Dude, I was terrified. I was terrified. I was disgusted. You know, and after seeing Chuck Liddell get his head knocked in the next year by a guy who he was able to grossly dominate, you know, when they were in their respective primes, I just couldn't stomach it, man. I was genuinely upset. I was genuinely upset. So a couple of media members that I'm friends with that were there might remember me going on some profanity-laced tirade about that. But hey, like I said at the start of this, I'll eat crow all day. Pass the hot sauce, pass the cracked pepper, serve up the crow. Deep fried though. Deep fried the crow. Deep fried the crow. All right. So we got something from Cole Shelton. Cole Shelton says, where do you think April's pay-per-view UFC 236 is? UFC has announced venue for 237, 238, but not 236, and only 2 months away. Cole, I wish I knew. I wish I had some inside knowledge on that. I'm not quite sure. I would, if we're going to play detective on this one, I would, in fact, let me see what fights have been announced for that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything announced for that, but we'll look at what's announced for that, and then maybe I can get a determination on where this fight might be taking place. But what I will say is that I don't see the note that has been announced for that card. So hey, it's anybody's guess, man. Anybody's guess. I would say look at some of the big markets that the UFC may not have touched for the year, or maybe they skipped last year. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, shout out to Jay who just hit me with the info. The only fight that's been announced, which is I think the one I just saw, but yeah, shout out to Jay for throwing a little love my way, making sure I don't get too lost out here while I'm on the solo. Two guys who really don't, warrant a main event or having a card in a particular city for their benefit. But the way the UFC has been running, in the last few years, or I mean, really longer than that, I guess since they were originally trying to put this up for sale, and especially after the sale, and they're just, running this constant, never-ending flow of events. They kind of the city. They just pick a city, and whoever's healthy, whoever ain't injured, whoever's not disputing their contract, gets thrown on the card. So, and one of the guys fighting, his name Boston is in his name, so maybe it's going to Boston. I don't know. I can't remember the last time they were at Boston. I think they went to Boston last year. But anyway, yeah, that's probably that. I'm sure we'll get some more announcements on that one in the near future, because 235 is like a few weeks away. So you gotta start getting the commercial ready for 236. I think it's about time, fellas. I think it's about that time. All right, so got another question from the homie Kung Fu Z. Kung Fu Z, what up, my man? He says, so after a storied career, do you think we needed to see an Anderson Silva versus St. Pierre or Jones? I mean, we definitely don't need to see it now. We definitely don't need to see it now. I at least with Jones. At least with Jones, we don't. And quite frankly, I don't need to see the St. Pierre fight now. I guess it's nice, but even still, that one kind of doesn't make sense from a competitive standpoint right now, because while DP made his guest appearance and went off into the sunset once again, that guest appearance, man, netted him the lineal middleweight belt. It's a big deal. Like, I guess if you want to hype up the stakes of that, and then Anderson Silva has the legacy back of the middleweight title, if he gets a win, cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. But Jones, hell no. Hell no. I mean, it would have been nice to see that then. It would have been like before John Jones, he was always the killer. But before he became this dialed in technically, I really wanted to see that fight. And I would have favored Silva back then, man, because the holes that Jones was showing in his game at that time, I think Silva still had he still had it in him to exploit that. He still definitely could have done it. It would have been tough. It would have been a battle, man. But I think he could have done it. Like, I remember one of my first forays into MMA media, I wrote for Bleacher Report, wrote just a few articles for them. And this was before it was like the reputable site that it is now. It was just like all fan shit. You just submit something, and if they liked it, they published it, right? So I wrote something about John Jones's future matchups, like what will be good tests for him moving forward after the what's the name, Vladimir Matyshenko fight. And one of the things I said in there was that, and I don't think I put this in an article, I think someone in the comments and I were going back and forth about something, and I was like, hey man, you know, one of these days, very soon, it's like within the next few years, I think we might see I think we might see John Jones get triangled or armbarred because of the way he's controlling the ground positions. And he kept, you know, guys kept getting wrist control on him. He would, you know, pound him into oblivion. But you get a skilled jiu-jitsu guy, you know, a guy who's skilled enough to do it. I thought, man, someone's going to snatch his arm. Vitor Belfort almost made it happen. So that's what I mean. Like, some of those little holes, I think Anderson Silva could have exploited those at that time, but God knows I don't want to see anything remotely like that now. Like, he very well performed tonight against Israel Adesanya, but he still did lose the fight. Let's not throw him in there with any more killers, please. Like, yeah, I'm not with it, but at the same time, you can't just throw him in there with you know, with like a Sam Alvey or something now, because damn, Alvey's going to get smoked. You know, so you have to be careful. But I honestly, man, part of me is really thinking this is going to be it for Anderson Silva. And I think this would be a very appropriate send-off, man. The emotional moments at the weigh-ins, the mutual respect between him and Adesanya. It seemed like an appropriate thing, man. He got the main event. Granted, it wasn't what it was scheduled to be, but he got the main event. He outperformed, and it was a metaphorical passing of the torch, or handing off, like, remember in Austin Powers where his mojo got stolen? Anderson Silva gave his mojo to Israel Adesanya tonight, and I think that is an appropriate send-off. If anything, man, let's finally see him in Roy Jones box, man. Let's see that. Why not? Like, at this point, why not? You know, Roy Jones has that like that boxing broadcast deal with Fight Pass now. Okay, I'm there for it. I'll take it. I'll take that. All right, so let's see what else we got. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and talk about the co-main event. Lando Vannata and Mariano. I mean, Vannata definitely lucked out getting a co-main event. So that's something to write home about. But yeah, man, it's interesting that this is the one time you would really think that Lando Vannata is going to style on the striking. You really would think that. He's fighting a striker. He's fighting a fellow striker. And this guy had he came in here with, I believe it was a 6-4 record. So you think, man, Vannata's probably going to style on this dude. I thought he was going to spin kick him to death or something. And that was my initial thoughts, like, well, it's going to be ugly. Like, they set this up for Vannata to get a serious win with style points. And he did get that win. He did get style points. Just wasn't the style points that we're accustomed to from Lando Vannata, to take the fight to the ground and then get that Kimura right at the buzzer. Like, pretty dope, man. Pretty dope. And he really needed the win for a guy who seems to be stuck in this draw then lose sort of back and forth, man. He needed to get back in that W column. So, man, not mad at it at all. So he did what he had to do. All right, so till we get another question, we'll talk about the Ricky Simone and Ronnie Yaya fight. You know, I thought this is another time where I'm gonna have to eat some crow, because my initial pick was Ronnie Yaya, and I think my initial assessment was informed by what happened last weekend in Fortaleza, Brazil. So we saw these guys in Fortaleza, Brazil, like, really shine. There were older guys that maybe shouldn't have, you know, like, Yeah, Damian Maya, like he Damian Maya Lyman good. Like that, some people didn't think that was gonna happen. I was one of them. A lot of people thought Moicano was gonna get Aldo. Thought Aldo was gonna win that, but that's another story. And then what was the other one? Oh, Thiago Alves, man. Didn't agree with the decision, but him beating Max Griffin, it was the old man festival at UFC Fortaleza. So I thought, man, I thought this was the senior citizen showdown. I thought the old guys was going to get it in, and I thought Yaya was going to be able to get a win. I mean, he has greatly improved. I think he's with American Top Team now, and we're not just seeing jiu-jitsu. We're not only seeing that. We're seeing a lot of that, but that's not the only thing. He actually has some decent punches now. So I thought maybe that was going to be enough. That maybe he can have Ricky kind of doubting himself in the striking, like just enough to respect his striking, and then maybe he can pull some fancy submission off. I really thought that was going to happen. I was wrong. Whatever. But let's talk about one of them scorecards, man. Did y'all hear that 30-25? Are you kidding me? Like there's always one of these every fight. There's always one of these scorecards that literally makes just very, very little sense. Like I scored 110-8 round, and that was the first round for Ricky, obviously. But man, 30-25, that's wild, man. That is wild. I can't justify that last round being scored at 10-8. Definitely, and not justifying that second round being scored at 10-8. In fact, I scored that one for Yaya. Close. Yeah, I'm not mad if you did it the other way, but I had that one for Yaya. My score was 29-27. I'll stand by that one. Yeah, I'll take it. And that haircut though, man. Ricky had the haircut of all haircuts. Like, if you don't know what you want to get, you sit down at the barbershop and you just look at the number guide and you're like, I want 1, I want 7, I want 11, I want 12, I want 13, I want 4. That's what he did. So yeah. All right. Now, De La Rosa and Nadia Kassem. I kind of thought Kassem maybe would be able to keep it standing longer and employ a better stand-up game, but De La Rosa was just on her. Like, she just swarmed on her, and looked really easy for her. Like, she didn't struggle at all. I think, and I think another thing we saw with Kassem too is that she showed herself to really be a novice on the ground, and that's no knock on her. Hey, ground fighting is a very detailed, very nuanced thing. I think it takes a lot more work, a lot more drilling, a lot more discipline, I think, to get there on the ground that you do with the stand-up, because you're just dealing with the details are just so much more, so minute in that detail. And what I saw from Kassem, like the reason why I say a novice on the ground is because she reminded me of how I grapple, and I suck on the ground. Like, my grappling is trash. So some things I would do where someone is shot in on you and you're not sure how to defend that takedown properly. So, hey, you know what? I'm just going to concede this takedown and try to snake my hips out when the fight hits the ground. And I don't know what to do from that point. Like that, I saw things like that. A lot of times too, you don't see fighters being able to chain submissions together unless they're dealing with someone who's just genuinely outclassed as a grappler. Like, to be able to chain submission after submission after submission after submission, and that last sequence where she had that triangle, that mounted triangle, and then switch to the arm bar and switch back, and that's something you tend not to see against like the really high level guys, unless you're dealing with a Damian Maya or Fabricio Verdum or one of those guys who have great jiu-jitsu and then just god level jiu-jitsu, and that's what we saw. We saw treating Kassem like she had like god level jiu-jitsu, and I think that shows that she's rather novice on the ground. I'm just more surprised that they put her in a match where in her home, she's also from this region, you put her in you know in this hometown thing, and you kind of match her up to lose. It just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I mean, unless they're really going to give De La Rosa a push, but whatever. What do I know? So let's talk about the Sam Alvey stoppage against Jimmy Crute. I'm not mad at it, but I think it was a bad stoppage. As I was watching it in real time, I thought, what's Alvey complaining about? Like, what's he fussing about? Like, he got his head pounded in, so ref saved his life. I think the ref was Steve Percival, if I'm not mistaken. He saved his life, I guess. But hey, that replay showed another story. That replay showed those punches, most of those punches were not landing. He was hitting the floor. He's hitting Alvey's arms, and a lot of those punches did not go through. But I can't hang the ref on that one because, I saw it in real time too, and I didn't have a problem with it then. So of course, being the ref, he needs to have a sharper eye than I do sitting here, on my chair, drinking my whiskey, watching this in front of a laptop, talking to you guys. Like, of course, the ref got to be sharper than I'm going to be. So, I'm not taking that away at all. But I do think that there's something to it. I think there are levels of mercy we should extend to some of these officials when things like this are going on, when it's that fast. Because and maybe I have to look at this again, but he looked like he was in the right position. Maybe he's looking at Alvey and seeing something in his eyes that look different. I don't know, but I can't be too mad. We've seen much worse stoppages. We've seen much worse. Like, I think the Herb Dean stoppage on Faber in the second Barral fight, I think that was far worse than this. I even think the stoppage of Rousey on McMahon, I think this one was better than that too. So yeah, I'm not too mad at the stoppage, but I get why Sam Alvey is protesting. I get it. I totally get it, man. Especially when it favors the hometown guy. You think something fishy's up. Like, I'm very curious as to what these post-fight interviews look like afterward. We talk to anybody backstage. Typically, they only send the winners back to talk with the media in the press room. But maybe Alvey is a guy who's never been shy of a camera. Maybe he'll pop up and express his displeasure. I'm very curious as to what his thoughts were. Like, express, verbalized, like not the yelling in the cage, but him, sitting down, talking about it, and walking through what he was feeling at the time, what it looked like. And I also think this is one of those times where the refs should have to be in front of somebody. I think they should be in front of somebody and have to answer to what they're doing, and not in an accusatory way, but just so we understand what's going on, just so the fighters and the coaches can understand what's going on. What's the thought process? What gets a fight stopped? What keeps a fight going? What are we looking for as far as scoring and things like that? I think these officials should have to make themselves available in some way, shape, or form to answer for some of the decisions they make, because I would love to hear what Percival has to say and say, hey, from my vantage point, I saw X, Y, and Z. And I think we can not kill the guy for that. So yeah. All right. So I guess we'll go to just briefly go through some of the prelims here. In fact, I'll skip my notes. I'll just read it off of my computer that seems to now be acting like it's got some damn sense. Of course, great timing on that. All right, so Devontae Smith with destruction over Don Young Ma. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. So that was, man, Smith, man, you talking about picture perfect. This like a systematic breakdown of that man, of Ma. Like, he broke him down. It's like he left no stone unturned. He just, it was almost like he looked at him like a Terminator would look at a human victim and say, okay, I'm going to systematically break you down. And that's what Smith did. Shane Young and Austin Arnett, that ended up being a pretty good fight, man. I think Shane Young definitely deserved that win. Totally agree with the scorecards on that one. I had a 30-27 as well. And I was the way he was managing distance, just kind of those half steps. It looked like Arnett was taking full steps in or full steps out, and Shane was kind of full step in, half step, full step, half step. And those half steps in relation to Arnett's full steps were putting him in better range for the punches. And he was able to get some of those like pull counters and stuff like that. Oh, that was pretty cool. Kai Kara France, split decision over Pava. Yeah, I agree with that. And look at what I forget what my score was for that. Yeah, I had it scored for Pava, and I wasn't mad that France won. Not mad at all. That ended up being a very, very close fight. But you gotta kind of assume in the hometown that the hometown guy is gonna win when it's that close. The way the crowd reacts to everything that's landed or even swung. But also, I think this was more the difference between whether you value volume or whether you value power on a much smaller scale, much smaller scale, not nearly as dramatic. It reminded me of the second Bisping Dan Henderson fight where one guy, when he lands, like, damn, he lands. But when the other guy lands, it's not as powerful, but he's landing a lot more. He's landing a whole lot more. Like that's kind of what we saw here. So we also saw, we mentioned Ishihara and Kong. They Kong got him with that rear naked choke technical submission, I believe. I don't remember Ishihara tapping to that. I think he went out. Good looking guys, man, for that fight, man. That's what's up. That's what's up. Like I said this on Twitter, man, but that looked like a duo from a buddy cop movie on Netflix or something, man. That good looking crew right there. That's what's up. Best looking fight on the card. Handsome gentleman. Jalen Turner, destruction over Kellen Potter. I like to see what Jalen Turner has, man. I really want to see how he develops. He's like 6'3" at lightweight. Bruh, those dimensions are insanity. That is crazy to think of someone that tall fighting at lightweight. And he's a very athletic guy. He seems to have his wits about him. Met the man at UFC 229. Smart dude, sharp brother. He's good guy. I'm really curious as to how he develops, man. I think they bring him along right. I think he could be something special. Just the body dimensions alone, coupled with his athleticism, should do him wonders, man. He can go far. So was this it was the first? Oh yeah, and the first fight of the card was Jonathan Martinez winning a decision over Buren. It was what it was. I wasn't. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that one. That fight was kind of what it was. But all right, so let's just go ahead before we wrap this up, man. Got to mention what we didn't see, and that's Robert Whittaker defending his title. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Robert Whittaker has not had a legit title defense yet. Keep in mind when he fought Yoel Romero, that his title was not on the line for that because Romero missed weight. So we haven't seen him with a straight up title defense yet. That's something, man. And this is the second time they scheduled him in Australia, and he dropped, and something happens at the last minute, man. And once again, man, gotta salute the homie Jason Burgos, who made this point on the trenches a couple days back, man, where he was saying, like, we got to really be concerned about Robert Whittaker's health. He seems to have these strange ailments, and I don't think he's as far as Dominic Cruz is, as far as how fragile he may be or whatnot. But whenever you hear the name Robert Whittaker, the word injury ain't far behind it. Broken hand or wrist in the last Romero fight, tore his MCL in the first Romero fight. He had a staph infection in his stomach. Jesus, a staph infection in his stomach. That the thought scares me. Sounds like something out of a horror movie. And now this hernia, which I'm guessing is the intestinal. I think there was the intestinal hernia, not like the one where like a testicle gets drawn up in your body, which is amazing. Like that he wasn't doing any heavy lifting this morning. Like that was an injury that was already there. So this man like cut weight and trained and went through at least some of his training camp with the hernia. And then it got so bad that now his body finally reacted to it. That's crazy. Robert Whittaker is a tough dude, man, to go through that and still make the scale and still be ready to fight. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. But fortunately, his recovery time isn't too much. I think Megan O'Leary said on the broadcast that it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks or something before he could go back to full training. That'll be gone in the blink of an eye. And maybe we'll see him on International Fight Week. I would love that if he makes it to International Fight Week, being a guy who is a potential star internationally. I mean, he's definitely a star in Australia, but like to see if we can make Robert Whittaker an actual star. And he's not the most charismatic of gentlemen as far as what he's going to say on the mic, but the skills pay the bills, man. You're one of the most skilled guys in the UFC, period. I think Robert Whittaker, when he's healthy, when he's at his best, he is on the precipice of greatness. When you talk about just pure skill wise, what he looks like. So maybe International Fight Week. Let's hold out hope for that. But you're definitely seeing this guy on a big card. But I think this time they're going to stack it just a little bit more, because despite the smoke that Dana White was throwing at your man at the pre-fight presser a couple days back, yes, this card was very top heavy. And when half of that top falls off, pretty clear. Like this card was one superstar away from being UFC 151. Okay. It was that close. And UFC is clearly shown they have no issue snatching a card down at the very last minute, as we saw with 232. They have no problem disrupting all your plans if it's convenient for them. So so be it. But I really thought that that this should have been something that they just offered for free. And I don't know if like the logistics didn't allow it, if contracts are stating this fight has to be pay-per-view, or it's too late to say call up, homie at ESPN Plus and be like, hey, bro, we got a UFC for you tonight. Probably not going to work that way. It's probably not going to work that way. But I'd like to think that if it did, they would have just made this a free card. Like if I'm remembering correctly, the Johnny Hendricks and no, not Johnny Hendricks. Wonder Boy and Jake Ellenberger fight. I believe the Wonder Boy Jake Ellenberger fight was originally supposed to be a co-main, I think, for a big pay-per-view for like the Super Bowl card, if I'm not mistaken, and that dropped out. The main event of that dropped out the last minute. I think like Kane and Fabricio Verdum, I think, dropped out. I'm probably all wrong with some of these facts, so kill me in the comments, whatever. But then they made that, and I think it was like a week between the main event dropping out and the actual event, and they made that if it was, and that was kind of a last minute thing, and no more pay-per-view. So that was dope. But maybe it was too late to do that, but that would have been really nice. Because granted, that main event was fantastic. We saw some great action on the card, but that was not $65 worth of name power and action in my book. All right, so that's what I got to say about that. All right, so I think I've taken up enough of you guys' time. I appreciate each and every one of you who have commented, who have thrown some questions my way, and just tuned in. Definitely appreciate it because, hey, it's late on the East Coast, and on the West Coast, I'm sure you probably want to go out dancing with your lady or something, but instead you're sitting there talking to my punk ass, and I appreciate you. So drinks to you for that one. But anyway, you guys know where to catch me and my work. At the bottom of the screen right there, Ant Walker MMA is where you can find me on Twitter. You find me on Instagram there too. I barely ever post anything. I did post a dope ass Thanos meme today, so check that out. Comic book nerd for life. But yeah, man. So that'll do it for the UFC 234 post-fight immediate reaction. If you can do me a favor, all you beautiful people out there who are watching, if you can like and subscribe, retweet, spread the word. I definitely appreciate the support, and I hope to make this a regular thing. Keep you guys entertained, open to comments, questions, and concerns. Please, DMs are open, so just go ahead, hit a brother up. Love to chat with some people and pick your brains as to what sort of content you'd like. As I'm trying to go ahead and do my YouTube thing. So yeah. So once again, much love. Appreciate all of you. So yeah, the Twitter, Ant Walker MMA. You can find my work obviously on SureDog.com and MMA On Point. So for SureDog, I've got the good, bad, and the ugly. My regular post-fight column should be live tomorrow. As soon as we're done, I'm going to start writing that. I've got a couple video scripts in the queue for MMA On Point, so I'll let you guys know when those go live as well. And until then, you can catch me on the trenches on the SureDog.com YouTube page with the homie Jason Burgos. The man Jay is going to be behind the boards helping us run that show. So appreciate your participation. Appreciate you watching. So you know what to do. You got to stay positive. You got to stay incredible. You know, stay whiskeyed up. Stay happy. Stay friendly. Stay gorgeous. Stay beautiful. Stay intelligent. Stay sharp. And most of all, please stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.